Hey boys and girls, welcome to another super exciting, outrageous toy review. Today we are taking a look at Rock Krusher from Hasbro's COPS and Crooks line from 1988. COPS and Crooks was a cool action figure toy line designed by Hasbro using similar articulation style to their 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes, but these figures were considerably larger. This gave them slightly better articulation, a little bit more posability, and accessories big enough they could feature cap-firing weapons. One of the taglines for Cops and Crooks was fighting crime in a future time, but the unusual thing is that there were a lot of really old-fashioned characters. So while Rock Krusher may have high-tech accessories, he's wearing a striped prison uniform, which, you know, we've used orange jumpsuits for decades. So it's a weird mix of modern and vintage, kind of like Batman the Animated Series, but before that ever existed. Rock Krusher was one of the first figures I got from this line and has always been one of my favorites. In the comic book, he's very intimidating, and in the cartoon show, he's really dumb. I always thought it was slightly disappointing that they didn't paint in his teeth. That's one paint app that would have really made his face even more expressive, because he's got this great snarl and gritting teeth, but the teeth are flesh-colored. So while Rock Krusher was not the leader of the bad guys by a long shot, he was kind of used a lot in media, sort of like a standout character, with him having the most generic crook look to him in the prison jumpsuit. He did get a lot of screen time and covers in the comics and things like that. The figure is dressed in all gray with some black and silver details. I don't know what that is. Alright, let's ignore the smudge on his hip and get back to the review. So he's wearing all gray pants. He's got a gray shirt. The gray shirt does have the stripes on it. And he's even got a little, like, prisoner number 001 stamped on there. My figure's a little bit of paint wear. But like I said, this guy has been in my collection since I was a kid. He's got a bald head with a little tiny cap on it. He's got painted on eyebrows and eyes. I always thought he looked a little bit like he was sort of making the Popeye face, because the one eye seems like it's open a little bit more than the other one. His sleeves are ripped off. He's got big, jacked, muscular arms. He's got a painted chest, which unfortunately is just slightly off shade from his rest of his skin tone, but it doesn't look terrible. And then he's got these cool, futuristic shackles on his arms that also have the Prisoner 001 number on them, and little, doodads there to make him feel more futuristic. He's got a center waist shackle type piece. I used to kind of pretend as a kid that they could, like, magnetically lock him up like this. You know how, like, the restraints they show when people go into prison, where their hands are cuffed to their waist like that. What else? He's got the same kind of shackles down on his feet, and he's got some brown boots down below. All of the Cops and Crooks figures are fairly muscular, but in the cartoon show, Rock Krusher was a huge, massive, hulking character. Like all the Cops and Crooks figures, Rock Krusher comes with a cap-firing weapon. He has his jackhammer. Most of them were guns, but there were a few that were other types of accessories. So it's a spring-loaded hammer that pops caps inside here. He can easily grip this with both hands. It's a little bit short for having him, like, posed to be using it, but a lot of times I just picked it up and, pretended he could use it as a weapon, similar to the way the Penguin's umbrellas in Batman always were weapons, Rock Krusher is one of the few characters in Wave 1, I think he's the only crook in Wave 1, that came with a backpack. This backpack is molded out of some gray plastic and has a ton of amazing technical detail to it. And it has little pegs on it so you can connect a black wire piece to his jackhammer. This is the same kind of wire that goes with the Hasbro G.I. Joe figures and things like that. This pegs onto his back using that hole where the screw goes, just like a G.I. Joe would. I've sometimes seen people put it on him like this, but I think that looks really horrible from the front. So I always pivot that down, which hides the pocket on the inside. His final accessory, which is always sort of my favorite, is his ball and chain. Again, this has got a nice futuristic flair to it. And in the comics, he would use this, and even in the cartoon sometimes, he would use this as like a mace. He would swing it around, or not a mace, a flail. And he would swing this around by its chain and smash walls or knock the cops over. This is a pretty small ring to try and shove his hand through, so I do not remove it very often. I took it off for this review, but I generally leave it on my figure because I am worried about the rubber that this is made out of eventually cracking because of that. It's hollow inside, which does save it some weight so it doesn't pull him over all the time, but it's a fairly heavy piece of accessory. The back of his ball and chain says State Prison and has a little star on it. Just trying to show off some of the other little details sculpted into this bad boy. I actually used Rock Crusher in some reviews early on in this channel's history just to try and spice things up as we were trying to, I don't know, invent what this channel was all about. So I'm going to give you a goofy little clip here of Rock Crusher up to no good. Chase, the police bot. We need you to catch a criminal who's on the loose. His name's Rock Crusher, and he's dangerous. No problem. I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good. I hope some cops don't stop me from robbing the bank. Bee-oo, 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 bee-oo. Oh, no. Chase has got me in his capture claw. Bee-oo, 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 bee-oo. Nice job, Chase. You caught him. I didn't get my due process. This is police brutality. As a kid in the 80s, I really enjoyed Cops and Crooks. I always wished I had had more of them, but I tried to focus a lot on specific lines because I really wanted every character. So I was really focused on G.I. Joe in 88, and I did not really expand out and get a ton of Cops. I had a handful of them. My best friend had almost all of Wave 1, and so we played Cops a lot. I did have access to pretty much all the characters, and that was great. I always was a little bit frustrated with the cap firing feature on these toys. They were tricky to line up. They were tricky to get it to work every time. So you can see it's tricky, and I even here with this roll of caps, I've got, you know, ones I hit, ones I didn't hit. Kenner, at the same time, was making RoboCop toys, and their rapid-fire action was amazing. It was really well done. Of all the cap-firing weapons, Rock Crusher's jackhammer is one of the easiest ones to get into the character's hands. It was another minor complaint I had with this line, is a lot of times their guns had such big handles, it was really hard to wedge them into their fingers. Let's take a look at Rock Crusher's articulation. He's got a ball joint at the head, very similar to the 85 and later G.I. Joe figures, which allows him to look around as well as up and down some. He's got an O-ring in his waist that gives him a nice swivel there that helps with bending and reaching. He's got a T or a J hook inside here that attaches to rubber band and attaches his hips, gives his hips a nice range of motion. He's got a bend at the knee. He's all held together with screws. You can see mine are very, very rusty. At the shoulders, he has a hinge and a ball joint there so he can rotate and move up and down. He's got a pretty good range of motion. He can't really get his arms up super straight. They kind of veer out to the side, but that's because of the angular shape of his torso. He's got a swivel just above the elbow as well as a hinge at the elbow joint, which gives him great range of motion for being able to hold accessories with two hands and things like that. And then the one joint that these guys have that G.I. Joe's did not have is they have a swivel at the wrist. Here's a special treat for this review. I actually have Rock Crusher still on the card, so we can check out his packaging. The Cops and Crooks figures have very large silver cards. It has the Cops logo at the top. I always thought it was cool that the N Crooks was sort of graffitied on there. And I believe the N Crooks part was only on the Crooks cards. The Cops cards were nice and clean. Fighting crime in a future time. The C in COPS is actually a pistol, which is kind of cool. The package features a little call out for the cap-firing jackhammer, includes roll of caps. And the card art features a pretty nice image of Rock Crusher there. I love how he's got the 5 o'clock shadow. That would have been a great paint app, but we could have gotten that included on the figure as well as the teeth. Rock Crusher's speciality is Escaped Convict. I'm getting a lot of glare off the bubble, but you can see a pristine figure inside. He's got the ball and chain, the backpack, the hose. the jackhammer as well as the roll of caps right here. So the back of the package features cross-sell art of the various members of the COPS team, including Highway, Sundown, Barricade, Longarm, Bulletproof, Sergeant Mace, and Officer Bowser and Blitz. Just below that, we've got a lineup for the Crooks in red. We've got Button McBoom Boom, Rock Crusher, Berserko, Dr. Bad Vibes, and Big Boss. It is interesting to note that the artwork on the back of the package is not necessarily the artwork on the front of the package. The back of the package also includes instructions for firing the caps. We also have a COPS crime file card here. This gives you a background on Rock Crusher. This was written by Larry Hama, the same man that penned the file cards for the original G.I. Joes. I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good. I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good.
I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good. I'm up to no good. I'm up to no good. I hope some cops don't stop me from robbing the bank. I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good. I'm Rock Crusher, and I'm up to no good. Oh no! Chase has got me in his capture claw. And I'm up to no good. And I'm up to no good. I'm up to no good.
Oh no, there's a criminal on the loose. I need to call my chase squad. Yoo-hoo, chase squad! Bee-oo, bee-oo, bee-oo. Bee-oo, bee-oo, bee-oo. Bee-oo, bee-oo, bee-oo. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous toy review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos.